I never really thought when I travel a lot, I'm in hotel rooms a lot, to put my phone next to my bed on the bedstand and nightstand. And I started doing that accidentally at a hotel because there was nowhere else to plug it, except the bathroom. And I thought, well, it was a great night's sleep. I didn't seem to be wiggling around much. And same thing the next night. And I thought, what's different here? And I thought, because usually it was bothersome, I thought, wait a minute, I've got FLFE on right next to my head here. And so I started experimenting at other hotels since I've been traveling. Now I can actually go back to one of my favorite hotels and stay there. I stopped because there was so much EMF noise. I was having felt energy kind of running up and down my legs and stuff. And so anyway, I was blown away thinking I had that device the whole time with me on my cell phone and wasn't using it. So now let's get into your EMF experiment with the larger basis of people, not my little anecdote.
Sleep is one of the things that's top of the list.
Yes.
So Gary did some work and found a study. And then we've now had two studies. One was a kind of before and after survey with the EMF, this kind of self-identified EMF sensitives within the FLFE community who heard us talking about, this coming EMF mitigation. And they said, put me in a beta group. So we did a before and after with them. And then we just finished this EMF sensitive studies with a researcher from the University of Pennsylvania. But man, sleep is at the top of those lists, consistently. So I understand what you were going through there, going to a strange hotel. It made all the difference
in the world. Now I can kind of sleep pretty well wherever I am, where EMF has been a factor. And that is shockingly most places. Certainly if you're staying in high density housing, apartment buildings, even neighborhoods with closely spaced housing and so forth. It's kind of shocking how much our bodies are up against right now.
And I think it's related to restlessness, anxiety, feeling of stress that people also, say there are symptoms that they feel and things that we looked at. And those may be part of why it's hard to sleep, but those are kind of also symptoms that people who are especially sensitive to EMFs, and it may be at some scale, many people may be feeling this and not realize it.
Yeah.
Concentration, brain fog, kind of tinnitus, kind of ear ringing type sounds, tightness in the face, irritation, headaches. Those are some of the things that people experience, and we looked at in the research.
Yeah, and you have it by scale, and you have some graphics. We're going to throw a couple graphics in as we go here. So, Gary, let's look at something else that had happened simultaneously. So you're getting this survey information back from people who are telling you how they're now experiencing their reality in terms of sleep and all these factors that Jeff just mentioned. But you also came across another study out of the Netherlands, which was very interesting in its implications to this study. So let's just set up in the bones of what was that other study showing?
The other study was very important because they were approaching this in terms of mitigation by removing technology that you're exposed to. And of course, if you are sensitive, for example, to cell phones, or particular phones, one way to do this is to eliminate that phone. If you've got problems with Wi-Fi, turn it off, certainly at night. There are a bunch of techniques that one can use to attempt to either eliminate or reduce some of this technology or protect yourself from it. And when they went through the reports that people had when they did these techniques, and they looked and they rank ordered the symptoms that were most likely to change when people experienced positive benefits, it was the same profile of symptoms
sleep
that FLFE was observing, and sleep was right at the top. Okay. It was quite, and fatigue. And it was when you see that kind of replication across country, across purpose. But you see here, what FLFE is doing is mitigation by changing the environment and the people's ability to live in that environment,
yes.
Which benefits us in the 21st century.
Oh, absolutely. So rather than having to turn everything off, or get rid of it, or put it in the garage or in the car or something, everything can stay as is. And FLFE is showing that it is mitigating these things, and that's why I thought that other study was so fascinating to hold up against it, because it gave you some empirical evidence that the exact same effects were happening. So it's the number one was sleep. Right. And then there's also concentration. And tell us another of the top, say 4 or 5 that are very significantly impacted, as we'll see on this graph in a moment.
Well, fatigue was next, after sleep, which kind of goes together. If you don't get enough sleep, you're probably fatigued. But there was
concentration.
In the Netherlands study, it was restlessness, what they called restlessness, which we didn't use exactly the same words, in our studies, but feeling of anxiety or stress, could fall into that as well. And then they had the tinnitus and the headache and the tight band was
pain in the head area. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that covered the top ones.
And that was pretty much the same in your study. So we see here, we're looking at 62% reduction in terms of the sense of stress in the study. 60% said they had more energy. 57% said they had better sleep, right?
Correct. I mean, we should qualify, because especially with someone like myself who does research at various levels, that the research that FLFE is doing, and most of these other groups are doing, is what's called phase 1 research, which means that you're trying to collect enough data to see, is something happening? And once you have enough data to know that something is happening, that's when you want to embark on what are called phase 2 studies, where you do the double blinding and all the other controls that you want to do to try to understand how something is working and what the mechanisms are.
What do you both of you have to say about 5G, what you're seeing, and how FLFE seems to be handling it from what you know?
Jeff, what would you say?
Well, again, looking at the studies, trying to find those good studies that really are looking at the effects with large numbers of people. We're not doing those yet, besides what we're presenting here today. Mm-hmm. But what we hear from our customers is there was a lot of concern as it started to roll out. Was FLFE really, was the environment really going to mitigate these new influences? And we have found that it has. We have some very, very sensitive people who are on the service. And, we've got testimonials from them saying, basically, I can't go out without my phone. Mm-hmm. And when I forget my phone and I go under a 5G tower, I feel sick and I'm dizzy and I'm disoriented. Mm-hmm. When I take the FLFE phone with me, I feel okay. Now, if I stay, what these testimonials say is when I stay under that tower for an extended period, then I'd start to not feel good. Right. So it doesn't seem, from that, I'm kind of extrapolating, it's not 100% mitigation. There's there's a bubble that's assisting and there's mitigation, but it may not be 100%. Okay. And so are you going to be doing any more kind of direct studies on 5G in the future? Or is that going to continue to be part of the EMF bundle and user experience study? Well, we plan to do an extension or a replication of the study using the Melissa Waterman's equipment, the discharge. Yeah,
sorry, Gary, what is the name of?
It's a gas discharge visualization system, GDV.
GDV,
correct.
That's the wonderful scientist, Russian man, Konstantin Karakov's original technology. Just beautiful fellow. His work complements what you're doing so well. So anyway, yeah, she measured it. It was pretty stunning. And we can, in fact, take a look at that little graph. And what we're seeing there is the red frequencies were, as I recall, the red frequencies were the 5G. And then the blue came in, and you could see how it even knocked everything down from being previously very spiky. So that was pretty significant just when I saw that the first time. It was encouraging. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.